Hi, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to Studio TV. I'm so excited to be here. I mean, first thing to say, this is our first time going live on LinkedIn. So that's really exciting that we've been able to do that. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn, do say hi. I'm joined by Daniel Stein, who is just wow. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Daniel. Honestly, I saw Daniel on LinkedIn, I think first, where well, you should have a look on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure we post some links. But Daniel works with children, young people, and adults as well. That's right, who have disabilities and additional needs, really focused on their physical well-being. And I thought, as we were, everything that we've been through over the last few months and continue to go through, this would just be a really good chat to maybe help us figure out some stuff and chat through some stuff. Daniel, thank you so much for doing this. Guys, if you're watching, whether you're watching on LinkedIn or whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please do feel free to ask questions. You can use the comments to do that. If you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel, because we have lots of chats like this all the time. But that's brilliant. Post a question if you've got one. Daniel, and again, I know I keep banging on about it. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Would you just tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about you and how Special Strong came about? We'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so Special Strong was actually birthed out of my own challenges, my own disabilities. And so when I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And so I was put on medication, and I started immediately getting counseling. And that was the solution for my learning disability. And so unfortunately, that didn't work well for me. And so as I got older, my parents got me involved in sports. And so I started playing sports, and it drastically changed my life. And so the key for me was having a physical outlet. And for me, that became sports. And once I had that physical outlet, I no longer needed the medication like I once did. I no longer needed that same counseling like I once did, because I had that physical outlet. And so naturally, I just fell in love with exercise, with physical fitness. And eventually in middle school, my parents bought me a gym membership to the good old YMCA. Yeah, I'm sure you guys all remember you remember the YMCA song, Ian? They do the letters and everything. Oh yeah, yep. Well, I was working out right at the peak of when that song came out, and so I started working out at the YMCA. I rode my bike from my house to the YMCA, about a mile there and a mile home, just about every day. And I just fell in love with fitness. I knew that this was something that I had to have for the rest of my life because of how it made me feel. It made me feel more confident. I was getting stronger, and I just felt better. And so as high school came around, I really started to look into it a lot more. I started studying on it. I started researching it a lot more. I got into pretty serious weightlifting. And then after high school, a mentor of mine actually suggested that I specialize in personal training for people who had disabilities. And, to be completely honest with you, Ian, I'm so thankful for his encouragement, because remember, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And so I never really thought someone like myself could actually study to become a personal trainer, learn anatomy, learn biomechanics, and pass the test. It wasn't until somebody actually believed in me and gave me vision for my life, which he said was inspired by God, by the way. Those were his words. And now I have this potential that I feel like I have to go discover. And so I became a certified personal trainer. And that was the beginning of my journey, but it was also the beginning of a lot more pain. And so I became a personal trainer. And then within the next few years, I also got diagnosed with a autoimmune disease. And I also got diagnosed with a mood disorder. And so now I'm really struggling in both mentally and physically with these different types of diagnoses. But the one thing that gave me hope and the one thing that gave me purpose was working out and exercising. That was the one thing that kept me moving forward. Instead of becoming sedentary and instead of letting these conditions own me, I was able to own them. And so Eventually, I decided to start my own business working with the regular general population. And then that ended up leading me into starting Special Strong in 2016, which is now all we do as a company. We work with individuals with mental and physical challenges, adults, children, and adolescents.
Okay, it's an amazing story, Daniel. It's so inspirational. They're just very quickly, if you don't, there's a question here that's come in from Claire. If you don't mind and you're happy to, what learning disability were you diagnosed with? Are you happy to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so some people will say it's a disability. Some people will say it's not. And so for me, the reason it was a disability is because it literally made me unable to learn things in school in a normal way. And so when I reached out to doctors and counselors, they considered it an actual disability in my case.
Okay. So from a Special Strong point of view, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know that there is a typical day, Ian. Every day is so different. When you ask that question, the first thing I think about is just some of the success stories that I've had. And some of these success stories it's interesting when you're working with individuals who have different challenges. There is no normal day. Every day is so different, and sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get that day. And so I'll never forget the day where it was another day, and I had been working with Brandon for 3 months. And when I started with Brandon, he was 18 years old, and he was in a wheelchair. And when his parents hired me, they said, "We want him out of this wheelchair." That's what they told me. And they said, "We've hired other therapists who have been unable to get him out of his wheelchair." And he had surgery at the age of 10, and he was supposed to get out of his wheelchair 6 months after this hip surgery.
Wow.
So that means that 7.5 years ago, he should have been out of the wheelchair. He wasn't. So I felt a lot of pressure from these parents. I'm like, wow, he's been seeing therapy for years, and he's still not out of the chair. What am I going to be able to do to help him? And so I just did the same thing that I do with all my clients, and I used our adaptive training model, which we now have available to the public. And I used that model on him. And then one day, out of the blue, we had been doing some training. And I said, "Brandon," I said, "let's go outside and let's see if you can walk." And so I literally took the wheelchair and I rolled him outside. And I said, "Get out of your wheelchair. We're going to walk." And I got my video out, my phone out, and we started recording them. And we caught live Brandon walking for the first time in almost 8 years. And this video went crazy viral. As a matter of fact, if you want to see the video, you can just go to our homepage of our website, specialstrong.com. It's right there on the homepage, and you'll see it's amazing. There's no acting in it. I mean, it is so genuine, and that's just another regular random day at Special Strong. And then there's other days where it doesn't go that well. And let me just give you a very practical example, because this literally happened yesterday. And I was training a client yesterday, and we were using a weight belt, and he's a big guy. He's about 250 pounds. We push a lot of weight, so sometimes he needs a weight training belt. And so this is a Velcro weight training belt, okay? And so we were lifting some weight, and the belt the Velcro just came off, and the belt fell off, okay? And my client got very upset, okay? This is a 19-year-old, 250-pound, mostly nonverbal client with autism. And he was so frustrated. He was frustrated partly because he is larger. And so he knew the reason the belt came over was the belt didn't actually fit him the right way. And so the Velcro came off. So he's frustrated because of that. He's also frustrated now because his workout was interrupted in a way that he wasn't expecting. So I had to gently take him outside because he was starting to get very frustrated. And I just had to calm him down. I took his hands and we did some breathing techniques, and sometimes we pray together. And eventually he calmed down and he was able to finish the workout. And so thankfully nothing happened. He didn't get hurt. He didn't hurt me, nothing like that. But you never know what you're going to get, So you asked, what does a typical day look like? It's just fun. It's a roller coaster. It's different every day. It really is so fun. And it's so rewarding. I mean, I live for the moments where I see clients like Brandon walk for the first time. in almost 8 years. I live for the moments when, I see clients like Josh who get their first job ever in their life, and they're able to do things independently that they weren't
Wow.
able to do at one point. I live for the times where clients are able to run for the first time in their life. I just taught a client recently who's 16, never rode a bike in his life. He's now learning how to ride a bike through the gym, through our training program. These are just, they're so incredibly rewarding, and it really doesn't even feel like work most days.
That's amazing. It's so amazing. So you'll know about this, and folks watching, it'll be a bit of a mixture of. So we have, as you know, an 8-year-old boy who has Down syndrome. So we're kind of quite early in our journey in a lot of senses. There are other parents who may well be watching. There'll be people watching who work with young people, some adults with disabilities as well. So I can see my friend here, is Richard. He has helped a lot of people who have disabilities on a wide range, kind of get into paid employment. So he's amazing. So there's folks like that, and then there's going to be a lot of people who are kind of in school settings, or who are here in the UK, special school settings, or what we would call mainstream school settings, where they are working maybe one-to-one or in leadership roles in schools with children and young people with learning disabilities, or physical disabilities as well. So there is quite a broad spectrum of people who will end up who will be joining us on this as we have this kind of chat. So I know there is a few questions that popped up, and I'm going to put those to you in a little bit. I think there's just a few other things I'd really love to just chat through before we dive into some of people's questions, if that's all right. So first of all, if I look at your website and just hearing you chat a little bit now, it's really clear to me that your faith runs really strongly through everything that you do, which I'm really interested to hear what the motivation is there. Would you be able to just briefly give us a bit of an insight into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share a little bit about my story and how I came to the faith, and then also how it plays a part in our business today. But I grew up in a Christian home, and after I got out of high school, I completely departed from everything that was taught to me. I didn't want to have anything to do with religion, didn't want to have anything to do with God. And so I lived the life that I wanted to live. I got in a lot of trouble in all sorts of ways. I almost died at one point from some of the things that I was getting into. I was getting into drugs, and I'll never forget, I actually overdosed at one point on Mother's Day. And so that's a very hard thing even today to live with, knowing that, my mom was the one who visited me in the hospital when I had just overdosed on drugs. So I was in a very dark place. And then, one day in the gym in 2009, somebody invited me to church. And at the point that I was invited to church, I really didn't have much to live for anyway. So I said, why not? And so I ended up going to church and actually giving my life back over to God. And so putting him back into first position in my life, and really calling him the love of my life. And that's when everything changed for me. And so I kind of had a new set of glasses, so to speak, to look through, because I saw life a lot differently now when I was no longer doing life alone. I was doing it with somebody else. And I refer to the Lord as my best friend. And so when I'm doing life today, I'm just doing life with my best friend. I consider my wife my best friend. But this is a different kind of best friend. It's my wife is the best example of practically what the relationship looks like. But this is with God, who knows everything. My wife almost knows everything, but not quite. She's not quite there. But that's why she's always right, by the way. So when we started the company, the company was founded 100% by faith. And so I mentioned earlier that my mentor, he's the one that gave me the vision for this company. And when we sat down when he gave me the vision, he said that God gave him that vision for me. And so everything that I've done up until this point has been founded by faith. And so as an example, before I started the company, I prayed that the Lord would give me a verse in scripture that would be for this company. And so I wanted a very, very strong verse that I could always look back to when things get hard. I could say, you know what, God gave me this verse for this company. And so I know the plans that he has for this company. And so that verse is John 10:10. And I'll just save you the time if you don't know it. But the verse says that Jesus came to give us life and give us life more abundantly. But the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I was reading that verse one day in scripture, and I felt like the Lord said, this is my heart for people who have disabilities. Because Ian, you and I, we have lots of opportunities to have abundant life. But people that have disabilities, they don't quite have those same opportunities that we do. So that became the founding verse of our company, so much so that it's created our core values. It's created our mission statement. It's created our vision. Everything has been centered on this one Bible verse that the Lord spoke to me before I started the company. Okay. And then as far as today, as far as practically living it out, you know, for us being a faith-based company, it just means we listen to God's voice and we do what he tells us to do. And we love people as best as we can. And I think that's God's heart. His heart is three things. He wants us to hear his voice, believe what he says, and he wants us to obey him. So that's HBO, hear, believe, obey. And so that's really our concept when it comes to faith in the marketplace. God, what are you saying? What do you want us to do? And let me just give you an example. At the beginning of this year, at the beginning of every year, I take a vision retreat, normally about 5 days. Sometimes it's less. But I did that this year, and in the very beginning of the year, the Lord told me to create an online training platform. Okay, and what happened in April, Ian? What happened in March?
Well, we everything kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah. And guess what we already had created? We already had an online training platform created. That's one of many examples of hearing God in faith, because I kind of felt crazy for doing it because there was no need for it at the time. But looking later, again, I believed and I obeyed. And so that's how we incorporate our faith as a company. And again, it just goes back to those three things. We hear, God, what are you saying? And God, we're gonna believe that this is you speaking. And then ultimately we obey and we do what you're telling us to do.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I'd say we, as a business, we've been through a similar journey in terms of what's happened with Studio TV, where, you know, we wanted to do stuff that was hopefully just going to be helpful. And it's the result is there's just so many people who are benefiting from lots of free resources, and there's some paid resources, but lots of free resources. I think it would just be really good to chat through a little bit about, because I'm you know, the people that are watching. So I'm thinking from a parent's point of view, and I know that lots of teachers watching and people who are working with our kids are aware that, you know, our kids are left behind anyway. You know, they're at a starting point of left behind, and we can all come up with so many examples of what that means day to day. As a family, we're living some of that stuff now, where stuff for our son is just we're having to do everything ourselves because everything's just pretty much fallen apart in some senses. That's been our experience of it. And in schools, people in schools, the vast majority of people working so hard to do the best for our children and young people, and really up against it and facing stuff that's brand new, like properly brand new. What from your experience of the last 6 months of working with folks, and this is actually linked to some of the things that have popped up. So just let me show you here. For example, Tracy says we see 167 children a week, all of whom are on the autism spectrum. Fitness-based social classes have a huge impact on these children. It's so spot on. You know, there's other kind of comments that are similar to that. But what's been your experience over these last 6 months, and what can we do for ours, whether they're our children, whether they're children that we're working with, and young people, just to help them with their physical, emotional as well, because it's all linked, isn't it? Their well-being at the moment. So here, just let me finish on that bit, sorry, because what I meant to say was they've all headed back to school. So if they're going into school, they're in school largely, to a large part. Obviously people are in and out as situations change, etc. But for the large part, they're back in school. So there are a whole bunch of new challenges that are coming up.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on that, Daniel?
Yeah, so I think you're asking as far as what kinds of physical activities are you looking, maybe more
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And we're getting that a lot, as a matter of fact. I'm glad you're asking that question. As far as our company, Special Strong, we've really started to see this the last few months with the increase in amount of clients that are coming to our program and requesting services. Obviously, we're not in every state and every country. And so my goal by answering your question is to equip, parents and teachers, whoever's listening, with practical things that they can do, either at home or maybe there's a gym nearby, and maybe they can use that gym nearby because, the physical outlet is certainly a huge part of the puzzle piece. I mean, it's a big puzzle piece when it comes to mental health, emotional health, physical health. The workout program is going to be huge. And I love the comment that I saw below about the group fitness classes. And, socialization is huge right now because there's not much of it because of the restrictions right now. And, so my best recommendation is just keep it really simple. Start with doing some very basic movements at home. And so if you don't know what a good movement is, we've got an incredible online certification program. And so it's very entry level. You don't have to have any fitness experience. There's no prerequisites required. And that's on certifystrong.com. And anybody, from a parent, from a teacher, they can take our courses and actually learn how to adapt fitness for maybe their child. And they can go right away and do that right at home. And if they need exercise equipment, we even have a list of very good exercise equipment. And you can get most of this exercise equipment for a couple $100 US. I mean, it's very inexpensive. Okay. And going back to that group class, we've had hundreds of people take our certification, anywhere from teachers to professionals, PE teachers. And starting a group class, I mean, you don't have to have any kind of special credentials to do that. So like somebody like you, Ian, you're very passionate about the community because you have a son with Downs. So somebody like you, let's say that you took our group instructor course, you could take that course and then next week you could go start a local group class in your community, and you could be the agent for change in your community because your community needs that right now. Yeah. And believe it or not, you can have a group class and still social distance for the most part. It's very safe. We are running right now several group classes. As a company, we haven't had any problems with CV-19, we're very fortunate for that. But the answer is get educated. And so, for people who need answers for physical activity, get educated. Go to YouTube. If you don't want to buy our certifications, go to YouTube, go to our YouTube channel. We have some example exercises there, which is a great starting point, and that's cool. That's what I'd have to recommend.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. And it is interesting because we know there's going to be a load of different stuff. I mean, let's see, Lorna said that PE, so physical education stuff in classes in some schools isn't happening because you can't coordinate kids getting changed safely. So many limitations in every setting about so much stuff. It's more important than ever to find creative ways of helping our kids get the physical activity that they need, isn't it? I mean, so here's the deal. Here's a picture for us. This is what we're doing at the minute. So we're at home. Aaron's being homeschooled at the moment. He is in the morning, he's getting up and having his breakfast, and he is always going out to do something. We've bought waterproof stuff, so it gets really grey and wet here. We know it's different over there where you are, but it gets really grey and wet here. So he's top to toe waterproofed up so we can get out, and even if it is just let's go and do a little bit of learning and running around in the woods or on the beach, because we're by the beach, and do some stuff there, the impact it has on how he is able to just sit and do some of the tasks he needs to do, some of the sitty downy readingy stuff and everything, is just makes an enormous difference. So we can't ignore that it's something that we need to do. That's really helpful. So you say maybe, and we'll post the details of this. We'll make sure when we're finished that alongside the chat on every channel we're on, we'll make sure that we post links to YouTube channels, a certification that Daniel's mentioned, which are amazing. I know. So Daniel and I were chatting before, and I said about my personal trainer, which I know, personal trainer, really. Are
Oh,
you
come on,
sure? So, and I mentioned you to him, and he said that sounds amazing, as in something to do, to have a really special focus. And you're right, I'm so passionate about it, because ours are just left behind. And to hear about somebody who gets that and says, actually, I'm going to do something about it, that's so exciting. It's so exciting.
And yeah,
what do you sorry, go on, mate. What were you going to say?
You made me think of something, because you were talking about your son with Downs, and I go back to this. I mentioned Josh earlier, and I didn't tell you about Josh, but Josh, 25 years old, also had Downs, and he was one of the gentlemen that got his first job at the age of around 25, whereas before that he wasn't able to get a job. But
wow,
we often think of physical activity, and we normally think of physical fitness improving, and we kind of stop there, but when it comes to the brain, the brain is moldable, and there are actually very specialized brain movements that can be incorporated with fitness that promote neurogenesis. And so if you don't know what neurogenesis is, it's just the formation of new brain cells, new neurons, new neural pathways. Okay. And so, we did some of those things with Josh, who had Downs. And as a result, you mentioned your son doing different tasks. Well, in Josh's case, he was able to do successful multitasking, which he wasn't able to do before. And very practically, let me just give you an example of what that looks like. Josh was never able to take dishes out of the sink and put them in the dishwasher. You realize that's it may seem simple to us, but there's many steps involved there. Josh was never able to do that. And one day his mom came in and said, "Daniel, you're not going to believe this. For the first time, Josh, all by himself, took the dishes out of the dish or the sink and put them in the dishwasher." And that's because new brain cells were being formed. Ian, let me tell you this. We don't have dishes in the gym. We're not doing dish training in the gym, okay? I didn't train Josh and then say, hey, one day I said, "Hey, Josh, let's practice taking a dish from the wall to the sink in the gym." We didn't do that. We did do foundational brain exercises that resulted in that happening. So I want listeners to understand that physical fitness is great, but there's so much more to it in the brain. And that's one of the things that we really dive into in the certification program. And the great news is you don't have to be a neuroscientist to understand how to do this stuff. And so it's very entry level. And again, for people looking for solutions right now, like the sweet lady who said, PEs aren't even open right now because there's no changing options. Well, guess what? If you're in the home, you can change as much or as little as you need to, and you can do this all in the home, right?
Yeah, this is awesome. And actually, so for me, as I say, Aaron's not in school, so it just is. That's amazing. What I know, there are teachers who would be motivated to put their parents in touch with, in front of some of your content as well. So that that's really exciting, because we can't do everything. And we have to help each other out and support each other with stuff, don't we? Of course we do. I'm gonna jump on a few questions, if that's all right. Sure. So let's see what's going. So let's have a little look here. So Joyce is asking, is saying if you offer training free to your clients. Now that sounds like she's talking about the stuff that you maybe do one-to-one. I think it's not free to clients, is it? It's stuff that how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do offer a free session initially to do more of an evaluation with our clients, but we're not a nonprofit organization. We are a for-profit organization. And so we do charge our clients an hourly rate to train with us. And through the profits, one of the things that we hope to do in the future is create a scholarship program. We have actually done many scholarships up until this point using the profits of our company to sow back into the lives of people who maybe can't afford these services.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Do you include training in life skills? Well, that's interesting. What you're saying about the pathways in the brain. Are we saying that really, actually, some of the things that we can potentially do with our children, our young people, our adults, can actually, in a roundabout way, we're helping with life skills? Does that automatically happen if you're doing certain things?
Yeah, I know what Joyce is asking. An occupational therapist does very specific life skill training, like, as an example, like how to draw on a piece of paper would be a good life skill, teaching somebody to use a pencil. Now, we don't necessarily do a life skill like that, but we do both fine and gross motor skills, which are needed to actually do the writing on a piece of paper, as an example. And because of the functional training that we do, many of what we do, it actually does translate into life skills. But our focus is on ADLs, okay, which is activities of daily living. And so we want to empower our clients to, with 100% independence. And again, going back to the abundant life, we want them to be able to do things on a regular basis, that they're doing regular activities to the fullest extent possible.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I really wanted to, that Joyce has just said, thank you for answering those questions. So that's awesome. If you have any questions, folks, please do keep them coming for Daniel while we're still around. I know I wanted to ask you specifically about what makes Special Strong so successful.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would 100%, without a question, I don't even have to think about that. It's the people that we hire. We do a very, very thorough process when it comes to bringing on new people to be a part of our company. We have we only hire about 1 in 50 people that apply to our company. And really, it's the types of people that we hire. You know, we can train anybody to learn how to do what we do. And we have a great training program for that. But really finding the right people who have the right heart. Because, Ian, somebody like you have a son with Downs, okay? So if I hired you and then there was somebody that had the same age, same background as you, they didn't have a son with Downs, who do you think is going to have more of a heart for that, for our clients? You are.
Completely.
And that's what we look for, because, Ian, I can't teach you to love your son the way that you do. And when you say you love your son, you're actually loving the whole population and everything that he stands for. Okay. And that is the types of people that we're looking to partner with, because they're going to make the biggest possible difference, not just from a physical standpoint, but holistically, they're going to really change somebody's life.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I love it. It is all about people, isn't it? Everything's all about people and having the right people in place. I know for Aaron, when the right people, for want of a better way of saying that, have actually been involved with him, it just makes such a difference to everything. And he's aware of who is the person, who gets him, who loves him, who wants the best for him. Yep. He's not, he's not aware of any of that. So it's super important, isn't it? That's super important. I think we're going to wrap it up a little bit. I think it's been amazing chatting to you, Daniel. Genuinely, folks. As I say, I've said it a few times. What I'll do is I'll make sure that wherever this has gone out and is going to stay out there for people to watch, if they're going to find that helpful, I'm going to include some links to things like Special Strong's YouTube channel, so you can start diving into some of their content there and get a little bit of a feel for what it's what the guys I like to work with, and what you might find if you were looking at things like the certifications and that kind of stuff, and then to your websites and everything. I would highly recommend following Daniel on whatever channels you're on, because the stories that you just put out all the time, it's every day make me smile and make me proud of what is possible if people go for it with everything. I think there's a few more comments coming in, so let's just put that. Karen, an old friend of mine, Karen, has just said, just watching Brandon's video, very moving. It is something else, isn't it? It really is something else. Thanks, Karen. Hello, Karen. That's amazing. There is a question there that's from Joyce. Let's go for that. It's Joyce who's asked us a few questions, which is wonderful. Just wondering if you provide opportunities for young people in terms of preparing them to apply for jobs. Is that part of what you do?
It's not necessarily a part of our program and our systems. It is something that we have done. I've done, as a matter of fact, I've done several job coaching, like interview sessions with many clients who have been wanting to get a job, and helping them prepare for the interview and those types of things. And again, it all goes back to the people. That's not a part of our program, but this is something that when you love this population, you're going to go over and above. When you find out somebody wants to get a job, you're going to help them. One of my clients, Robert, he's now at the age where he can get a job. And so I posted on Facebook, looking to help him find a job. And I had probably about 30 comments and almost 100 likes. And he got some great leads out of that. And again, that's not a part of our program, but because I love Robert, naturally, I can't help but want to help him.
That's awesome.
So, I'm confident to say that about anyone who's in our organization. You know, if they were working with a client, they would do the same thing I would and go above and beyond.
That's really cool. That's very cool. I'm just going to say that's so cool. So Joyce, there you go. Joyce approves of that. That's amazing. Daniel, thank you so much. I say we'll post some information that people can dive into if they want to grab some more information on there. I thank you from me personally. You are an inspiration. I'm really grateful that you've made the time to chat with us and share a bit about your story as well, which was just wonderful. Folks, thank you for joining us. It's been really lovely to see so many of you, and as we've had a chat with Daniel, and we will see you again soon at Studio TV. So thanks for joining us. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.